Trump literally fell asleep during major diplomatic moments, not once, but twice. But before we come to that, let us take a look at this first. It puts the entire meltdown in context and reveals another big scandal of him at the same time.
We are now really hitting our stride on the kleptocracy part of what's going on here. While important parts of the federal government that serve the public just collapse under Trump. While Trump's FAA, for example, finds that it is no longer capable of keeping air traffic control systems reliably up and running at, say, Newark Airport, at one of the airports serving the nation's largest metropolitan area. As Trump's Pentagon has just dropped not one but two F-18 fighter jets into the sea, just slipped right off the aircraft carrier, and oops, that's gone. Nevertheless, in true kleptocratic fashion, the dear leader has his plane. He has just arranged for himself, as Senator Schatz was just talking about there, he has just arranged for himself a gift of a $400 million plane for himself that he wants to use while he's president, and then he plans to keep using it himself after he leaves the presidency as well.
While government systems are falling apart, jets are crashing, airports can't keep their lights on, Trump is making sure he's flying in luxury. 2 fighter jets lost at sea? Not his problem. But a brand new $400 million aircraft for himself? Sign him up. This isn't leadership. It's late-stage kleptocracy with a gold trim. He's not just wasting taxpayer money. He's building a mobile monument to his ego. And yes, he expects to keep it after leaving office, because of course he does. But Rachel Maddow isn't done yet, and coming up, more brutal truth, and the clips where Trump literally starts falling asleep in important meetings.
As if he's ever planning on leaving the presidency. For us, the public, we've got, airline CEOs emailing customers today saying, oh, God, geez, this air traffic control thing, woo, please keep flying. We swear we're being as safe as we can. That's what the public is contending with. But, what does Trump care? He's getting his own $400 million personal plane as a gift from a foreign country that he's going to go do some deals with as president of the United States, heading out today on this big Middle Eastern trip. I mean, for us, the public, we're all dealing with the cancellations and the delays and the reduced number of routes and the panic from the remaining air traffic controllers who have been put in this situation by whatever is going on at Trump's FAA.
While Americans are stuck waiting at overcrowded airports, CEOs are begging passengers not to freak out because Trump's FAA is falling apart. But Trump, he's jetting off on a Middle East tour in a gifted private jet, like a corrupt oil baron on a farewell tour. His entire administration is collapsing, and he's treating it like a travel upgrade. Commercial travel is crumbling, national security is shaky, but Trump's priority, wheeling and dealing abroad in his shiny new toy. One more scorching point from Rachel Maddow is coming. And right after that, the clip where Trump straight up falls asleep in public.
We, the public, are wondering what it meant when these guys insisted on putting in Starlink at the FAA. They started inexplicably using equipment from the company run by the president's top campaign donor to supposedly upgrade our air traffic safety systems a few weeks ago without a normal contracting process, right after that same donor demanded the resignation of the head of the FAA. We're all left wondering, as the FAA is apparently no longer able to reliably keep air traffic control systems running at major airports, should we be worried that they did that right before this all started falling apart? I mean, that's how it's going for us, the flying public. But for him, awesome flying palace he gets to keep. So long, suckers. In the shadow of the plane debacle tonight, that sort of textbook example of how a kleptocracy works, where the guy at the top converts the assets and functions of the nation and its government for his own purposes, and everybody else gets nothing. Like, that's how kleptocracy works. In the shadow of that plane debacle still unfolding tonight, we've got another story for you this evening about Trump doing something for himself while apparently making sure that nobody else in the country can get that same thing. We've also got news tonight on Trump's apparently illegal efforts to fire people and shut down parts of the federal government that he doesn't actually control.
So let's get this straight. Trump's top donor pressures the FAA chief to resign, then gets his tech installed without a proper process. And now major airports are struggling to function. Meanwhile, Trump rewards himself with a custom luxury jet and leaves the rest of us grounded. That's not just corruption, it's a government being stripped for parts. And where's the media outrage? Hunter Biden made headlines for years, but now the Trump kids are selling crypto dreams, building resorts, and raking in foreign cash, while their dad accepts private jets like party favors. And somehow the press shrugs. Maybe it's legal, maybe it's not. It's outrageous, it's dangerous, and it's being ignored, all while Trump's own grip on reality continues to slip. And yes, it starts with this next clip where Donald Trump can't even stay awake.
Read a lot of the material now out of Saudi Arabia, and Mohammed bin Salman is saying we need a resolution on a Palestinian state. And I don't necessarily recall several years ago, pre-October 7th, as that being a demand that he had necessarily stated publicly. Do you think his position has changed? Or do you think the way he has expressed himself?
Did you catch that? Right at the end, Trump's head snaps back up like a malfunctioning bobblehead. He was literally falling asleep in the middle of a diplomatic conversation. If Joe Biden did this, it would be headline news for weeks. Fox would have a 24/7 ticker about Sleepy Joe collapsing at the mention of foreign policy. But when Trump does it, crickets, and it gets worse. Before we show you the second crazy clip, make sure to subscribe. It means a lot to us. Now back to the video.
Signing on behalf of the United States, the Honorable Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America.
He's signing a major international agreement, and the man looks like he just woke up from a nap on the floor. There's a desk right next to him, but instead, he wanders across the room, totally out of it. Staff had to redirect him like he's a lost tourist in a food court. We're this close to giving the President of the United States one of those child harness backpacks with a leash. This isn't tough guy leadership. This is full-blown confusion at the international level, and it's not a one-off. Just yesterday, he gave a whole speech about a new executive order, then tried to walk out without signing it. They had to drag him back like, "Sir, you forgot the thing you just talked about." He is not running the country, he's just wandering through it. And meanwhile, he's imposing chaotic tariffs and price controls like it's a game show, things his own staff once called communism. This is what happens when the economy is being dictated by a man who can't remember where the table is. And it's not just Democrats saying it anymore. Even Republicans, including Senator Rand Paul, are sounding the alarm on national TV. Take a look for yourself.
You know, I think tariffs are bad. They're bad for trade. They're bad for prosperity. So anytime we can make them lower, that's better. And I've said all along, while I'm not for the tariffs, if the negotiation somehow made tariff barriers lower, I'll compliment the president. But you have to realize with China, he's getting to 30%, but he was at 145%. It's a smaller number, but it still will be a 30% tariff on everything from China. And so people who buy things from China, Americans who buy things from China, will be less rich. They will lose wealth, and that wealth will be taken from them in the goal of making trade fair, which some people want, but there is a cost to this, and it will be a cost to the consumer.
Even Rand Paul, a Republican who's no fan of regulation, is saying it flat out. Trump's tariffs are hurting Americans. He's not sugarcoating it. He's saying what Trump refuses to admit. These trade wars don't make the US richer. They just make regular people poorer. A 30% tariff might sound like a political win, but in reality, it's a direct hit to your wallet. And the craziest part is, Trump thinks this is a flex. Meanwhile, even his own party is trying to explain basic economics to him, and Rand Paul, he's far from finished, because the next question hits even harder.
Why do you think the White House, the administration, has been so reticent to admit that to the American people? You and I both know it. Every small business, big business leader is aware of that.
It used to be universally known. I mean, this went on. We debated this in our universities after World War II. And by the time, the 1970s and 80s came, it was pretty much decided whether you were right or left, Republican or Democrat, trade was acknowledged as a good thing, and the world did get richer. Post-World War II, we all got richer, and we still continued to get richer over time. But now it's begun to be debated, and that knowledge is lost. But it's a pretty fundamental knowledge, and that's why when I debate with my colleagues, I present to them the facts. They say, well, the middle class has been hollowed out. But if you look at household income over a 70-year period, it's just not true. The middle class has thinned slightly, but it's because they moved into the upper class. Humanprogress.org does the statistics on this, and it's amazing what wealth has been created since 1820. But really, even since when I got married in 1990, it used to be a third of the world was living in absolute and utter poverty, $2 or less a day, and now it's less than 10%. So that's an extraordinary feat. 100,000 people rise up out of poverty every day around the world, and we should be glorifying that. Instead, we attack each other about what a bad place the world is, and it's actually just not true.
Rand Paul just hit Trump with a verbal spreadsheet, and the math is not MAGA approved. He's saying what Trump never will. Tariffs make Americans poorer, not richer. This isn't radical. It's what every econ professor taught after World War II, before Trump traded textbooks for red hats. Paul drops facts, stats, and even gets nostalgic about 1990 like it's a rom-com. Meanwhile, Trump's still blaming China like it's a Disney villain. But hang on, Rand isn't done. He's not just defending trade, he's about to take a flaming shot at the president himself, and it's brutal.
Well, the president argued that tariffs were going to pay for the tax cuts and they were going to reshore tens of thousands of manufacturing jobs. You and I could agree that was never going to happen, but does that argument that he makes, does all that just go out the window now?
Well, see, we still haven't really felt the pain of the tariffs. So if you survey people and you ask them, is it unfair that China does this or India does this? 75% of the people say, yeah, it's unfair and we should do something to make trade fair. But then if you tell them, if your television set costs $600, are you willing to pay $900 to teach those people a lesson and to make things fair? Most people aren't willing to pay a tax. They're not willing to pay extra for their goods. And also, if you pay $900 for a TV that was costing you $300, that's $300 you had to get your hair done, to have someone mow your grass, to have people help you, and you don't. So you're less wealthy in the pursuit of fairness. But people on the right used to not accept these fairness arguments. They used to say the marketplace decided these. As long as things were voluntary, the marketplace sorted things out. But now you have people on the right, I think, really adopting arguments of the left on fairness. And to get to fairness, though, there always is some sort of penalty that someone must pay. And in regard to tariffs, it's a penalty they will pay with higher prices.
Or another way, we could say less wealthy, more poor.
Rand Paul just broke down Trump's tariff logic. And folks, it's as busted as Trump's casino empire. Turns out, teaching China a lesson comes with a bill. And spoiler alert, you're paying it. Want to feel patriotic while buying a $900 TV that used to cost $300? Cool, but say goodbye to your haircut, lawn service, or literally anything fun. Paul's right. The new MAGA logic is just the left's fairness arguments in a red hat, plus inflation. And what's next? The final part of this fascinating interview, and it gets even more revealing.
I want to talk about the budget, though, because it could cut $750 billion largely from Medicaid. Your colleague, Senator Josh Hawley, has called those cuts morally wrong and politically suicidal. What do you think?
You know, I disagree completely. I think what is morally wrong is to have a huge percentage of your public dependent on government insurance and not going to more productive jobs that have insurance, much better insurance and much better health care. What's also morally wrong is to run a deficit of $2 trillion. So it's sort of a bait and switch. We offer poor people in our country free stuff, free health care, free food, and then they think, well, this will be a leg up. I'll get better. I'll be able to join the middle class someday. But then what we do is we borrow $2 trillion for the programs we provide for the poor, and in the end, we create inflation. So we give them a little bit more, we give them a little bit more, and then inflation takes. And what happens is it ends up being somewhat stagnant.
We must have stepped into an alternate dimension, because Rand Paul is on MSNBC openly torching Trump's budget. He's not holding back. He's calling the Medicaid cut smart and calling Trump-style spending both morally wrong and fiscally explosive. You know something's broken when Rand Paul starts sounding like the most reasonable guy in the room. This is the same Republican Party that gave us tax cuts pay for themselves, and now, suddenly, math matters again. What time machine are we in? But one thing's for sure, we're staying in this reality and we're calling out Trump and his circus daily. Leave a comment and subscribe if you haven't already. See you soon. Here you can find the next crazy thing Trump and his administration did. Click on it.